Pain isn't always the enemy we imagine it to be. At times, it's more like a quiet voice trying to tell you something that words can't. When your back aches, it may not simply be because you lifted something wrong or slept in an awkward position. It may be your body reminding you that it needs a little more care, a little more patience than before. As the years pass, we begin to notice how the familiar rules change. What once healed overnight now takes days, sometimes weeks. It can feel discouraging, but it's not a sign of weakness. It's simply the rhythm of life asking you to slow down and listen more deeply. Have you ever noticed how a child falls, cries for a moment, and then runs again as if nothing happened? Our bodies once did that too. But in your 70s, pain tends to linger, not to punish you, but to guide you. It says, "Take it easy, protect me, nurture me." That shift in perspective can change everything. Instead of fighting your pain, you can treat it as an invitation to explore a gentler way of living. There's a kind of wisdom in back pain if you're willing to hear it. Maybe you've experienced mornings where simply bending to tie your shoes felt like a challenge, or afternoons where sitting too long left you stiff and restless. In those moments, it's easy to feel frustration, even fear. But what if, instead of asking, "Why is my body betraying me?" you asked, "What is my body asking of me today?" It's a softer, kinder question, and one that opens the door to healing. I've spoken to many people who carried that same weight of frustration. They told me how pain not only limited their movement, but also touched their confidence, their independence, their joy. And yet, again and again, I've seen how a shift in understanding helped them reclaim not only comfort, but also hope. When you begin to see pain not as an obstacle, but as a messenger, the burden feels lighter. It's not that the pain vanishes instantly, it's that you no longer feel at war with your own body. You begin to walk beside it, not against it. And that is the first quiet step toward relief. So I invite you to pause for a moment. How do you usually respond when discomfort shows up? Do you ignore it until it grows louder? Do you push through, hoping it will fade on its own? Or do you lean in, breathe, and ask what it's trying to tell you? There are no wrong answers here, only opportunities to become more aware. And awareness is the beginning of change. By the way, I'd love to know, where are you reading this from? Share your location in the comments. It warms my heart to see how far these stories travel. Maria was 78 when she told me her story. For years, she had believed that exercise was no longer for her. "I'm too old," she used to say. "My back just can't handle it." So she spent most of her days sitting, moving as little as possible, thinking that rest would protect her from pain. But over time, the opposite happened. Her stiffness grew worse, her confidence shrank, and she felt trapped in her own body. One morning, on the advice of a friend, she decided to try something different. Instead of committing to long walks or difficult exercises, she simply stood up and walked around her living room for 5 minutes. That's it. At first, it felt almost too simple, even pointless. But she noticed that after a few days, her back loosened just a little. After 2 weeks, she could reach for the cupboard without the same sharp twinge. And after a month, she said she felt lighter, not younger, not magically healed, but more alive. You see, movement is like oil to a rusty hinge. Our joints, our muscles, even the discs in our spine crave circulation. When you move, even gently, you encourage blood to flow, nutrients to reach the tissues, and stiffness to ease. It doesn't take hours at the gym, it takes consistency, patience, and kindness toward yourself. The truth is, your body is not asking for punishment, it's asking for rhythm. A short walk across the room, a slow stretch while sitting in a chair, standing up during commercials if you're watching television. Tiny steps that over time create space where pain once lived. Perhaps you've noticed how stillness can sometimes make your back feel worse. You sit for an hour and then find it hard to stand up straight. That's not because you've done something wrong, it's simply because your body loves to move. In your younger years, you may have run, danced, or bent without thinking twice. Now, it's not about speed or endurance, it's about gentle, deliberate movements that remind your body it is still capable of carrying you through life. The key is to begin where you are. 5 minutes of walking in the morning, a gentle stretch before bed, rolling your shoulders while waiting for the kettle to boil. You don't have to prove anything to anyone, not even to yourself. This isn't about fitness in the way people talk about it in magazines. It's about giving your body the gift of motion, little by little. So let me ask you, what's one small movement you could add to your day without it feeling like a burden? Could you walk to the window every hour just to look outside and stretch your back? Could you rise slowly from your chair and roll your spine a few times, feeling each vertebra awaken? Imagine if these little moments became part of your rhythm. Over weeks, they could transform how you feel, not just in your back, but in your whole sense of being. And if you're wondering whether this really works, remember Maria. She didn't start with ambition, she started with compassion, and that made all the difference. If this resonates with you, don't miss the next steps. We go deeper. Make sure you subscribe so you won't miss a thing. Movement is not about reclaiming youth, it's about embracing the body you have now and keeping it alive with kindness. When you move with gentleness and awareness, you are not fighting against time. You are flowing with it. There's a phrase many of us grew up hearing, "No pain, no gain." It was meant to inspire strength, to push us forward when life or exercise felt difficult. But as the years pass, you may have noticed how that phrase feels less like encouragement and more like pressure. In your 70s, pain doesn't carry the same message it did when you were 25. Back then, soreness might have meant your muscles were growing stronger. Now, persistent discomfort may be your body's way of warning you to pause, to soften, to shift. And that difference isn't because you've become fragile, it's because biology changes with time. As we age, the cushioning discs between our vertebrae naturally lose some of their fluid, making them less springy than before. The nerves that once recovered quickly from irritation become more sensitive, sending sharper or longer-lasting signals when something is out of balance. Muscles that used to bounce back overnight take a little longer to restore themselves. These aren't signs of failure. They are signs of a body that has worked faithfully for decades and now asks for a different kind of care. It's almost like an old violin. The wood matures, the strings tighten differently, and the instrument must be tuned with greater sensitivity. Your body, too, requires a gentler hand. This is why ignoring pain or pushing through it often leads to more stiffness, more fatigue, and sometimes even injury. Listening, on the other hand, invites healing. Imagine pausing in the middle of your day just to notice your posture, your breath, your level of tension. You might discover that your shoulders are drawn up without you realizing it, or that you've been sitting slightly twisted, putting pressure on your lower back. These small discoveries are not trivial. They are the very signals that guide you toward relief. What if you treated these moments of awareness as small gifts? Instead of thinking, "Something is wrong with me," you could think, "My body is reminding me to adjust." That shift in thought changes the whole experience of pain. It becomes less frightening, less frustrating, and more like a gentle tap on the shoulder. There's no need for drastic changes all at once. Begin with simple check-ins, once in the morning, once in the afternoon. Ask yourself, am I holding tension? Is my back asking me to stand, to stretch, to shift? These questions don't require judgment. They only invite curiosity. And with curiosity comes awareness. And with awareness comes a chance to make small healing choices. Remember, pain is not the proof of effort anymore. It is the whisper of your body asking for attention. And when you honor that whisper, you create space for relief, for peace, and even for a new kind of strength. One of the most overlooked truths about back health is that it isn't always about big exercises or dramatic changes. It's about the tiny, almost invisible shifts we make throughout the day. Think about how often you sit, stand, and rest. These everyday moments are like threads that weave together the fabric of your spine's well-being. And when those threads are pulled too tightly in the wrong way, like sitting slouched for hours or standing stiff without moving, the fabric begins to fray. But when you add gentle adjustments, the weave strengthens and your back begins to thank you. The good news is that these changes are simple and they don't require strength or endurance, only awareness and kindness. One powerful habit is to break up long periods of sitting. If you've been in a chair for 30 minutes, stand up for just 2 minutes. Stretch your arms overhead, walk slowly to the window, or simply shift your weight from one foot to the other. This tiny act of standing allows your spine to decompress and your muscles to wake up. Another helpful shift is adding a small cushion behind your lower back when you sit. It may seem minor, but that gentle support encourages your spine's natural curve and prevents the slow creep of slouching. It doesn't need to be a special cushion, even a folded towel can bring comfort. And then there's the matter of your feet. Keeping them flat on the ground with your knees at a soft angle can transform how pressure travels through your spine. Many people don't realize that when feet dangle or cross tightly, the lower back carries more strain than it should. Imagine how different your back might feel if you gave it this simple gift of grounding. Of course, no one can sit perfectly all the time, and that isn't the goal. The goal is to introduce small resets, gentle reminders that help your body realign. Perfection is not the measure of health. Awareness is. Think of it like tending a garden. You don't control every drop of rain or every gust of wind, but you can pull a weed here, water a plant there, and over time the garden flourishes. Your posture is much the same. These little moments of care add up to resilience. Perhaps you might try asking yourself a soft question during the day. How does my back feel right now? Not as judgment, but as invitation. And when you notice tightness or heaviness, you can respond with a micro shift, standing, stretching, or adjusting your seat. It takes only a moment, yet that moment has the power to prevent hours of discomfort later. You may be surprised how your body begins to respond to this gentle attention. It's not about forcing yourself into rigid positions, it's about kindness, curiosity, and the willingness to change direction when your body asks for it. When you start practicing these small posture shifts, you are teaching your body that it is safe, supported, and cared for. And sometimes that is the most healing message of all. When I look back at the journey of healing my back at 75, what strikes me most is not the stretches, the movements, or even the postural changes. It's the way I learned to treat myself with gentleness. For much of my life, I believed improvement came only through effort, through pushing harder, through demanding more of myself. But healing in later years has a different rhythm. It asks not for force, but for kindness. Aging is not about losing who you are. It's about discovering new ways to live in harmony with the body you have now. Your back pain, your stiffness, your slower mornings, they are not failures. They are simply the natural poetry written into your body. When you stop fighting those lines of poetry and start reading them with respect, something softens inside you. And that softening is where healing begins. I've spoken with many friends my age who told me they once felt ashamed when pain limited them. They thought it meant they were weak or that life had already closed its doors. Yet I have watched those same people flourish again, not by chasing youth, but by embracing the wisdom that comes with age. One friend told me she finally realized that walking slowly through her garden was not a lesser version of the long hikes she used to take. It was, in fact, a deeper form of living, because she noticed the roses more closely, heard the birdsong more clearly, and felt her body relax into the pace it needed. Healing my back wasn't about forcing it into silence. It was about listening to it, adjusting, and trusting that small changes could bring real peace. And they did. Perhaps your own healing will come through a new routine of gentle movements. Or perhaps it will come through something even simpler, resting when your body asks, standing a little taller when you remember, or breathing more fully into your belly. The point is not to transform yourself overnight. The point is to honor yourself each day in small and steady ways. I often think of it like tending an old oak tree. You don't cut it down because its bark has cracks or its branches bend with age. You water it, you protect it, you sit under its shade with gratitude. You treat it as the living treasure it is. And isn't your body just the same? You are not broken. You are seasoned, weathered, and still capable of surprising yourself with new strength. If you found even one idea here that speaks to you, I invite you to subscribe. There's so much more we can explore together. And let me leave you with a gentle question. What is one small change you feel ready to try today for your back? Share it. I would love to cheer you on.